Grab your coffee and settle in. This week, I'm taking you behind the curtain of the new Fox Sports Den blog and podcast. We're talking about the journey of rebuilding, from the initial spark to bringing on my new digital production team, Dean and Diana. This isn't just about technical shifts, it's about the creative energy it takes to start fresh. Whether you're here for the coffee talk or the behind-the-scenes look at how the shows are coming together, I'm glad you're part of the process.
I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you're on a stage. Bright lights, big crowd. And you're the circus performer who has to keep all the plates spinning.
Oh, that act. Yeah, I know the one.
You get one plate going on a thin stick, then you run over, get another one going, then a third, and by the time you get to, the fourth one, the first one starts to wobble.
That distinctive wobble. It's terrifying.
It is. You have to sprint back, give it a little wiggle, then dash to the next one. You're moving constantly. It looks impressive. The audience is clapping. But inside...
Inside, you're panicked.
Completely. You know that if you stop moving for literally 1 second, the whole thing just shatters.
It's a vivid image, and honestly, it's a little stressful just thinking about it, but I think you're bringing this up because it's the perfect metaphor for the modern creative mind.
It really is. We have all these terms for it now, multi-passionate, hustle culture, but when you're in it, it just feels like managed panic.
It feels like your heart is going to explode.
Exactly. And that is actually where we're starting today. We're looking at that specific feeling, that creative engine running at redline while your body is physically breaking down, and how to fix it. We're doing a deep dive into a piece called Finding the Gap to Create.
Which is a fascinating read.
It is. It's written by Cricket Fox. And before we get into the heavy stuff, we have to establish who she is, because her profile is, eclectic is probably the polite word.
Chaos might be the other one, but in a good way.
In a good way. It paints a picture of someone who is just genuinely curious about everything.
Right.
So let's unpack her profile. Cricket Fox is a digital strategist. She runs her own company, Fox 5263 Productions. That's the day job. But then you peel back the layers. She hosts a podcast, Corner Coffee with Cricket. She's a knitter. She runs an Ohio State Buckeyes fan site called House of Buckeye.
And she's deeply invested in WWE NXT wrestling storylines.
Yes, deeply.
That is quite the Venn diagram. You've got the meditative patience of knitting, the high-octane intensity of college football, and the drama of pro wrestling. It shows a mind that craves engagement on a lot of different frequencies.
But that's the trap, isn't it? That's where the spinning plates thing comes back in. When you have that many interests, how do you keep the logistics from just crushing the joy of it all?
That is the central question of this deep dive. We're exploring Cricket's journey from that racing heart sensation, which is a very real physical symptom she describes, to a breakthrough. And that breakthrough involves AI.
Okay, and this is where I feel like some listeners might, bristle a little bit.
Yeah.
Because usually when we hear creativity and AI in the same sentence, the next sentence is about how robots are stealing our jobs.
Or making art soulless. It's a valid concern. It's the elephant in the room.
But the source material today argues something different. It's not about AI replacing the creator. It's about technology reclaiming the mental space you need to actually be human.
It's a gap finder, a way to clear the noise. But before we get to the solution, I think we need to sit with the problem a bit longer, because Cricket is brutally honest about her old workflow.
Yeah. She describes herself as having this engine just running at full speed, drafting notes for the Buckeyes site, counting stitches for crochet, tracking who's fighting who in NXT.
And she explicitly mentions that physical toll, that racing heart.
That stood out to you, didn't it?
It did.
Why?
Because it's a somatic marker. It's your body ringing an alarm bell before your brain is even ready to admit there's a problem. When your hobbies, the things that are supposed to bring you joy, start triggering a fight or flight response, you've hit a dangerous bottleneck.
It's like the logistics of doing the thing have become heavier than the love of the thing.
Precisely. The drafting, the scheduling, the organizing, it all creates this friction that creates heat. And that heat leads to burnout. Cricket was in a position where she was just chasing the clock.
So she's at this breaking point, and she decides to try something that she admits felt unconventional. She turns to AI. But she didn't just ask ChatGPT to write me a blog post. She went deeper.
Right, she started using tools like Suno and Notebook LM.
And we should probably pause and explain what those are. Let's start with Suno, because that one feels the most controversial to me. Suno is an AI music generation tool. So Cricket provided the lyrics, she did the writing. but she relied on the technology to craft the music. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. If I write a poem and I feed it into a machine and the machine sings it and plays guitar, did I make a song? Or did I just, like, order a pizza?
That is the million-dollar question in the creative world right now. It's all about authorship. If I don't strum the chords, is it my melody? But I think we have to look at why she used it. She wasn't trying to become a world-famous composer.
She was trying to express a feeling.
Exactly. And she talks about her hesitation, right? She admits she was worried the technology might overshadow her voice.
Which is a healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
If the tool does too much, you lose your identity in it.
Of course. But think about the barrier to entry for music. If you have a song in your head, but you don't know how to play piano or produce audio, that song just, it dies in your head.
So Suno, in this case, is acting like a session musician.
Or a translator, maybe. You give it the emotional map, the lyrics, the style, and it translates that into audio. For Cricket, it wasn't about cheating. It was about bypassing the years of technical training just to hear an idea she already had.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
But what about the writing? She's a writer first. She used Notebook LM. For people who think all AI text tools are just chatbots, how is this different?
Notebook LM is really interesting because it's grounded in your documents. You upload your notes, your drafts, your research. It becomes an expert on your stuff.
So it's not just making things up from the internet.
No, it's looking at what you've already written. And Cricket mentions a specific moment that changed her mind. She calls it the 17-minute breakdown.
Yes, this was the turning point. She'd used Notebook LM to generate a breakdown of her writing, a podcast-style overview, actually kind of like what we're doing.
Right.
And she listened to it later that day.
And this is crucial. She didn't use it to write the content for her. She used it to reflect the content back to her.
She says it addressed every aspect of her needs.
And think about what that means practically. When you are deep in the weeds of a project, you lose perspective. You can't see the forest for the trees. She fed her drafts into the tool, and it gave her back a structured summary. It organized her chaotic thoughts into a coherent narrative.
So it didn't do the creative work. It did the administrative work.
It did the synthesis. It's the cognitive heavy lifting of saying, okay, here are the 3 main points you're trying to make. That usually takes hours of rereading and outlining.
She calls it a remarkable balance. And I think that's the key phrase. Because if the AI had rewritten her opinions onto the Buckeyes, she would have hated it.
Oh, she would have rejected it immediately. As a fan, your opinion is your currency. You can't outsource passion, but you can outsource structure. Cricket found that the tool tackled the tedious and laborious facets of production.
It's the difference between an architect and a builder, maybe.
I like that. She's still the architect drawing the blueprints. The AI is just laying the bricks. Or, to use a term she brings up, a digital producer.
A digital producer.
Think about a film producer. They don't usually star in the movie. They handle logistics, scheduling, structure. They make sure the vision gets to the screen. Cricket essentially hired a digital staff to handle the drudgery.
And by doing that, she stopped the racing heart.
She conserved her energy, and this is a concept we really need to drill down on: resource surplus.
Okay, break that down for me.
Every creative act requires energy. Emotional, cognitive. If you spend 90% of your battery power just organizing your notes and fighting with software, you only have 10% left for the actual art. You're running on fumes.
And the art suffers.
The art suffers, and you suffer. By offloading that 90% to the digital producer, Cricket flipped the ratio. Suddenly, she had a surplus of energy.
She uses the word revolutionary to describe this shift, which feels big. But then she connects it to something I found really surprising. She connects this AI workflow to wrestling Twitter.
I love this part. It's so unexpected, but it makes perfect sense psychologically.
Okay, so help me connect the dots here. Shiloh Hill is a wrestler in NXT.
Right.
Cricket had an interaction with him on Twitter. And she compares the feeling of using AI to that feeling of tweeting a wrestler. On the surface, those seem like 2 totally different things.
It all comes down to the feedback loop. Think about the traditional writing process. You sit alone, you type into a void, maybe weeks later someone reads it. It's a very lonely, one-way street.
It's a monologue.
Exactly. Now think about social media. You tweet at Shiloh Hill, he replies. Boom. Instant validation, instant connection. The energy comes right back to you.
It's a dialogue. You feel seen.
And Cricket describes that interaction as amplifying her inspiration. Now look at how she used the AI. She put in lyrics, and Suno immediately gave her a song back. She put in notes, and Notebook LM immediately gave her a breakdown.
It feels like a conversation.
It creates a dopamine loop. Instead of staring at a blank page, which is draining, she's jamming with a partner. Even if that partner is software, the psychological effect is very similar to that Twitter interaction. It keeps the momentum going.
That is a huge insight. We usually think of AI as a tool for output, like, I need a finished product. But you're saying the value is actually in the process.
It turned isolation into collaboration, and that reignited her passion for music, specifically. She wasn't just grinding anymore, she was playing.
But, and I feel like I have to keep bringing us back to this, doesn't this collaboration blur the lines of who she is? Does Cricket Fox cease to be the creator?
This is the identity crisis everyone fears. If I use GPS, am I still a driver?
Right.
But Cricket is adamant about this. She lists off her identities to prove a point. She says, I am still the writer weaving words.
The AI didn't choose the words.
I am still the dedicated knitter with vibrant yarn.
I mean, a robot definitely cannot knit a sweater. Not yet, anyway.
And most importantly, I am still the enthusiastic Buckeye fan.
That's true. You can ask an AI to summarize a game, but it can't feel the gut-wrenching pain of a fumble in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. That emotional resonance is uniquely human. The AI can mimic style, but it can't replicate care. Cricket argues that she hasn't lost herself. She's simply a version of herself that feels rejuvenated.
Rejuvenated, that's a great word. Implies that the old Cricket was withering a bit.
So you're spinning too many plates.
And the new Cricket found a way to put the plates down. She had this metaphor at the end of the piece that I really love, the creative cave.
The creative cave, it's a beautiful image.
It sounds cozy, but also a little isolated.
I don't think she means isolated in a lonely way. I think she means insulated. Insulated from the noise, from the frantic hustle.
So the cave is the mental state you get to enter when you aren't freaking out about logistics.
Yes. She talks about embracing the dawn. Usually when you're overwhelmed, the morning is the worst. You wake up and the first thought is, oh no, I have so much to do.
Dread.
The dread. But because she has these digital producers, she wakes up with excitement. She calls it working smarter. The cave is a sanctuary where she can focus on the what because the how is being handled.
It's the difference between waking up and thinking, I have to edit audio for 3 hours, versus I have an idea for a song and I can hear it in 5 minutes.
That shift in perspective changes everything. It transforms the production side of things from a barrier into a bridge.
You know, it's funny. It sort of reminds me of the old masters, like Rembrandt or Michelangelo. Can we have this idea of the lone genius suffering alone in an attic?
It's a very romantic myth, and it's
snap.
mostly false.
How so?
They ran studios, they had workshops full of apprentices who mixed the paints, prepared canvases. Sometimes they even painted the backgrounds. The master focused on the faces, the composition, the soul of the piece.
So in a weird way, using Notebook LM to summarize your notes is just the modern version of having an apprentice grind your pigments.
I think that's a perfect comparison. These tools are the studio assistants. They handle the laborious facets, Cricket's words again, so the master can focus on the vision. Cricket Fox didn't stop being the CEO of her creative life. She just finally hired a staff.
And that staff happens to run on electricity and algorithms.
And it doesn't complain about working at 4 a.m.
That is a definite plus. So we've gone from the panic of the circus act, the spinning plates, the racing heart, to the calm of the creative cave.
And the bridge between those two worlds was this willingness to partner with technology for structure and process, not just to generate cheap content.
Right. She wasn't spamming the internet. She was organizing her own brain.
That's the distinction that matters.
So let's bring this home for everyone listening, because maybe you don't care about wrestling. Maybe you never picked up knitting needles in your life.
Though I highly recommend knitting for stress relief. Just saying.
It's noted. But even if you aren't Cricket Fox, you probably have plates spinning. We all have that production side of our lives.
We do. It might be meal planning for your family. It might be sorting through thousands of emails at work. It might be trying to write that novel you've been talking about for 10 years, but you get stuck outlining it every single time.
It's the stuff that drains the battery. The stuff that makes you feel like a circus performer.
Cricket's story is an invitation to look at those plates and to ask a hard question. Which of these do I actually have to spin with my own hands? And which could I hand off to a digital producer?
That requires confronting that fear, though. The fear that says, if I use a tool, I'm lazy, or if I don't do it the hard way, it doesn't count.
We have to get over the idea that suffering is a prerequisite for quality. Authenticity isn't about how much you sweated, it's about the vision. If the tool protects your energy so you can actually execute the vision, then the tool is serving the art.
If the choice is use AI and make the song, or don't use AI and the song never exists, I think the choice is pretty clear.
I agree. It's about finding that gap, the gap between the idea and the execution, and realizing you don't have to fill that gap with your own exhaustion.
Finding the gap to create. It's not just a catchy title, it's basically a survival strategy.
It is. So here is our challenge to you. Think about your own creative cave. Or maybe think about what is keeping you out of it.
Identify the bottleneck.
Yeah.
What is the passion project or the hobby or even the work task that you've shelved because the logistics just feel too heavy?
What's the thing you love but you're too tired to do?
If you stopped viewing technology as a replacement for your voice, the thing that's going to steal your job, and started seeing it as a guardian of your energy,
Right.
what might you pick back up?
What intricate pattern might you finally knit?
What song might you finally hear?
It's time to find your own gap.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Before I finish my coffee and head out for the weekend, I want to say a huge thank you for joining me on this first leg of the rebuild. We've talked a lot today about Dean and Diana and how I'm using AI to help with the heavy lifting, the organizing, the scheduling, and the drudgery that used to drain my battery. But I want to be very clear about one thing. The heart of the Fox Den is still human. While the AI helps me find the gaps, Cricket is still the one writing every word, editing every cut, and executive producing every single show you hear. Technology is our partner for creativity, not a replacement for it. The Scottish bitch lines, the Buckeye spirit, and the stories we share here, those come from a place that algorithms just can't reach. So, as we keep building, remember that we're using these tools to amplify our voices, not drown them out. Stay safe, keep your coffee hot, and I'll see you back here on Monday morning for the SmackDown Breakdown. Have a great weekend.